It's just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and about 20 minutes ago I arrived in Arches National Park. I stopped off at the visitor center down there to get a couple of maps and speak to the rangers about hikes for tomorrow. And then I was gonna go and find a campsite, but then I decided it's still early, and let me just get a brief overlook of what we're talking about here. The arches we'll see tomorrow, but what typifies Arches National Park is the red rock. It is just stunningly beautiful, and down there in the valley is the highway I came in on. That's with the movement of the plates, the tectonic plates over here, something happened apparently about 6 million years ago, and the plate just cracked and buckled, and this half that I'm standing on actually sank a little bit, and the other side is way higher than this. So as I said in one of my previous videos, the next few parks are going to be very different to all the greenery etc. that you've seen so far. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this. Decided to go on just like a 100-yard walk to this outlook, and already, apart from the color of everything around me, there's some strange things. Check out that rock balanced on top there. Wonder how long that's going to remain there for, or how long it's been like that. And then you've got, I don't know, these narrow things. Those must be good. I mean, you can judge by the height of the people standing in front, or even at a good distance away. Those are pretty big, narrow. Wonder if eventually they'll also come tumbling down. The views down here through the canyon are just stunning. And in the distance there, see the snow-covered mountains. Wow. Life is good. I'm at my campsite. I'm doing a little bit of early barbecuing, and I'm staying in a cheapy campsite. It's near the highway. It's a little noisy, but inside the camper it's not too bad. I've got the Moab Mountains behind me. I'm about 7 miles from the entrance to the park, which you see there in the distance. Snow-covered mountains. Those are not part of the park, but they look pretty spectacular. Also pretty spectacular and a lot closer to home, the steak and beef sausage that I found doing on the barbecue. Awesome. Good morning from Arches National Park. It's 8:45 a.m. I am at pretty much the northern edge of the park, in an area which is really popular for hiking. It's called Devil's Garden. See the parking lot here for at the trailhead is pretty much full. There are a whole bunch of different routes you can do here. The route I'm probably going to end up taking is about 8 miles. The last bit apparently is a little tricky, but I'll take it easy, take it slow. So let's get going. The hike starts off walking through this narrow canyon, and it definitely creates a sense of anticipation. It's great walking in sunshine as opposed to the last few hikes I did which were overcast or even rainy. And the scenery all around me definitely helps as well. This is great. This is the feature that gives the park its name. the fin, the area sticking up above the ground, is made up of different types of rock, and the lower rock gets eroded more quickly, leaving these holes. So this is the first one. There'll be many more on this trail. Previous arch was called Tunnel Arch, and this one is called Pine Tree Arch because there are pine trees growing at the bottom of it. It's big. I mean, put the person there in to create some perspective. But what's also really nice, you look through the arch, you get the magnificent Moab. You looking through, you get the beautiful Moab scenery in the background. So no sooner have I mentioned the fact that it's a nice sunny day than it clouded over. But it's okay because these are not rain clouds. It's still spectacular. Coming up on what's called Landscape Arch, which looks incredibly delicate, as if it could fall at any stage. It's that there. Wow. Apparently rain seeps into the rock and causes bits to break off from the bottom. So eventually this is all going to come down. This hike is now starting to get a little harder. This is probably going to be one of the more challenging hikes that I've done, but the scenery makes it worth it, from the desert flora to these amazing fins, which as they erode, some of them will form arches, to the valley down below and the mountains in the distance. As I'm walking, I have to remind myself to look up, because the scenery is so impressive and you can fall into the habit of just watching where you're putting your feet. But every few minutes I just stop and take in the moment. Magic place. Yeah, I could walk through this all morning. So here at Arches is the first time that I've encountered traffic problems. I waited in line for nearly half an hour this morning from 7:30 to get into the park. I was lucky to find parking for my first hike, and now leaving it, there's some sort of traffic jam. I don't know what the holdup is, and the parking lot is chock-a-block. People were circling around in the traffic in the parking lot behind me, waiting for spaces to open up. I hate to think what it's like here in the summer when the crowds are even bigger. off at an overlook here, and just the colors behind me, the colors, the rock formations, and the view down into the valley, just incredible. I can see why this is one of the most popular parks. I'm just surprised that at this time of the year there are so many people here. Oh well, what can you do? I'm filming here from what's known as the Garden of Eden viewpoint, and I mean, just look at this place, and it's not hard to see where, the how. It's not hard to see how they came up with a name like that. The scenery here, wow, just unbelievable. You know, there's so many places in this park. You can just stop, sit, and take a few hours just to admire the view. That's what I've got in front of me. That's what I've got behind me. And the sides aren't too shabby either. Doing a short walk, wouldn't really call it a hike, to these arches over here, called the window arch, because it provides a window into the valley below. You can see how big that arch is, looking at the size of the people down below there. This thing is big. And on the way to visit the arch that I just showed you, off to the side, get a view of this one against an incredible backdrop. And from inside the arch, or underneath the arch, this is the view. No wonder it's called the window arch. This is from under the arch, looking back down at the parking lot. You can make out, there's my camper, and on the other side there are more arches. I'm not sure if I'm going to go to them or not. We'll see. If they, maybe. I'm curious to know what they call that structure. This one here. Can't imagine if they wanted to give it a name what they would call it. So I'm not going to go all the way up to the arches. You can see over there we have what's called double arch. There are two holes in it. That massive arch there, and the one there that is not yet gone all the way through, and I don't know if you can make out right at the top there in the back, in the center of the screen. Now some kid with a white shirt on, just to give you an idea of how big these things are. I can just add this national park, and there's my unnamed structure again in the middle. This park, I'm adding it to all of the others. Each and every one of them is unique, and it's making for an incredible experience. Good morning. It is now 7:25 in the morning. I decided to get a really early start today because yesterday the parking lot for this hike was full from about 10 o'clock on, 9 o'clock on. And also at 7 o'clock, so 7:30, I had a 20-minute wait to get into the park. So this morning I got in earlier, there was no wait. I was the second car in the parking lot. And I'm doing a hike to the Broken Arch and Sand Dune Arch. It's pretty much a circular route, 3 miles in total. So I'm looking forward to it, and I also hope I'm going to get a view in a few minutes of the sunrise over the desert. I have to say that everything takes on slightly different appearance in this early morning light. Sun rises over the desert, and as the light hits these rock formations, the color changes. Well worth getting here early. Well, for me anyway, because I was awake, but it's worth the effort to wake up early to get here to see this. Check out this formation. I wonder how long it'll take before this comes tumbling down, because it's definitely narrowing at the bottom, and yeah, I'll take a closer look at that. Yeah, you can clearly see how it's eaten away at the bottom here, whereas it's much thicker higher up. For sure that will come down one day. I thought this was going to be a nice easy stroll. Well, it started off that way, then I've had to come up here. Quite the scramble, but it's beautiful. And then all of a sudden you come out of the canyon to this. Wow, really, really beautiful. In the United States, on the less traveled hiking routes, they don't have signs or whatever. They have these cairns, these little piles of rocks along the way. You see one, and you've got to watch for the next one, which happens to be there. In this case, they're pretty close together, but sometimes they're quite far apart. Also, part of the trail here is soft sand, so you can see footprints in the sand. But when you're climbing over rock, it's a little trickier. Wildlife. This is the viewpoint looking at what's called Tapestry Arch. I would guess that it's called that because you have the 3 arches. 1, 2, 3, and I believe there's another one on the side there, a massive one. I believe it's called Tapestry Arch because they're all kind of woven together. Pretty neat. Okay, this was a little detour from my route to see this. Got to backtrack like 200 yards and carry on with the route. I've reached my next goal, or short-term goal, which is this. It's called Broken Arch. There is a crack in the middle there. I believe that's why it's called what it is. Really, really beautiful. The trail actually goes through the arch. It opens up on the other side to this fantastic vista. Wow, what a way to start today, this hike. I'm nearly back at the van, which is over there. But before I get there, I'm going to make one more little detour Yeah, behind me into this crevice to sand dune art. We go up this path here, and it's 100 yards or so in, and we'll be there. So, hey, I'm here, it's worth doing. Wow, going right through this narrow path between the fins. This is very cool. The one thing that was a little bit difficult with this hike is that a lot of it has been on the soft sand. When you walk for a long time on soft sand, boy, it gets tiring. But no pain, no gain. This is stunning. Got the colors in the rock and the arch behind me. Quite something. I'm loving this hike. So that last arch was the sand dune arch. I'm just about back by the car. What a great first hike. Gonna get into the car, drive to the next place, make sure I get parking, make some breakfast, and then do the second hike, which is also about 3 miles. So this is something kind of different. About 200 million years ago, this area was all sand dunes. And the sand dunes got covered. Wind brought in quartz and stone and all sorts of other things which compressed them and solidified them. And then the quartz, etc., on top got worn away, and we're left with petrified sand dunes. Shame, poor thing's been so scared for so long. So today's worked out a little bit differently to what I originally thought. After my first hike this morning, I went down to the area where I wanted to do the second one, and the access road was closed because the parking was full. So I actually left the park, I went and had a rest, went into town, put in gas, checked the tires on the RV, got a bite to eat, and came back to the camp, back to the park. I had to wait half an hour in line to get in. The number of people there is insane. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the hike or not. I haven't reached the start of the hiking point yet. It's now 3:15 in the afternoon. But I did stop at a spectacular overlook. So, in the distance here where I'm pointing now, you can see the outline of the Colorado River Canyon. That's going to become eventually the Grand Canyon. But the most spectacular thing here on this clear day is the La Skull Mountains, covered in snow, on top anyway. So, amazingly beautiful place, and of course the view in every direction is great. Okay, so I'm going to head back to the van. Next stop, I hope, will be the parking lot at the trailhead of the hike that I want to do. It's an in and out hike, 1.5 miles each way, and it's supposed to be really pretty. So I really hope that there's access, parking. If not, I'll hang around maybe in the area here for an hour, and if not, I'll have to give it up as a lost cause. So the good news is that there is parking. The road is open. There's parking. Actually, I think I got the last spot in the RV parking lot. So it's now almost 4 o'clock. 1.5 miles in, 1.5 miles out. In the late 1800s, a guy by the name of John Wolfe actually came here and built himself a little ranch. This was his house. Actually, that was the second one. Family members came out and saw him in primitive conditions he was living in and convinced him to build something a little more solid, which is this. I think the family lived here until about 1910, and it's been deserted since then. It's now a historic building. Way to the arch, there's some rock art carved by Native American, not carved, engraved on the rocks. It's between 200 and 400 years old. Got a little bit of a climb going here. If I've come up that way, you can see over there the old farmhouse, and in the background you can see the packed parking lot. Over there, the other side of the road, is the RV parking lot where I parked. I don't think this is exactly going to be a stroll in the park, because you see the people down there, they're on the path I'm going. That path then goes up. See the people even further there? Yep. There's a lot of uphill involved here, all the way to the top there. Also believe, I read on the sign coming in, that some of it is walking along a narrow ledge. We'll see how that goes. Done quite an uphill already. Walked from the road down there, and there is a whole lot more uphill to come. They weren't lying, there is this narrow ledge here. It's actually not that narrow. It's about 1.5 meters wide. So this is pretty cool. This has to be one of the most unbelievable views I've ever seen. That is Delicate Arch. You can see from the people down below standing in line to go under and take their photo. You can see how big it is. Framed the backdrop, the mountains, the snow-covered mountains there. Down below here is something called the amphitheater. Apparently you get stuck in there, it's really difficult to get out, and there are people who've come up here to get married. Mazal tov. It looks like I came at just the right time. You can see the vehicles there backed up, waiting for a parking space. I think I was lucky to get one when I came. And boy, I really was lucky. I've enjoyed every single one of my hikes here at Arches National Park, but this one has been the cherry on the top. Okay, it's just unbelievable, and such a special final hike for this visit to Arches. I hope you've enjoyed following along as much as I've enjoyed doing the hikes and making these films for you. Tomorrow morning it's off to my next site, and I will talk to you from there. All the best.